The Detroit Pistons suffer a pretty tough loss to the Utah Jazz last night, but Jaden Ivey had a really good bounce back game. Was actually able to close this game, even though it was a blowout at the end of the fourth quarter. He closed this game out, and he deserved to. He played really well this game. We're gonna talk about Jaden Ivey, how well he played, and some of the other players who struggled a little bit in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. So like I started with the last episode with, we're going to start asking questions that I want to see answers from you guys in the comment section down below, or you can tweet them at me over at Kuka Hill. I'm going to ask you guys some questions at the beginning of every episode from now on. Today's episode, I want to ask you guys, in the Pistons' next game, how many starters do you think will actually play over 30 minutes? And Jaden Ivey played over 30 minutes tonight. That's a shock. I don't understand why the Pistons starters, specifically the younger players, don't play over 30 minutes all the time. They get treated like we're saving them for the playoffs or something. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think majority of them play 30-plus minutes next game? Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. The Pistons had a really bad loss. This was a really bad loss to the Utah Jazz, 126-111. They ended up, the Jazz ended up blowing this game up over in the end of the third quarter. And throughout the entire fourth quarter, Lauri Markkanen just went absolutely berserk on the Pistons. He had 38 points and 9 threes made in this game. The Pistons got manhandled in the second half. It wasn't good. It wasn't close. But we do have one big positive. And Jaden Ivey had 30 points tonight. That is the big positive. Jaden Ivey had probably, I think, one of his best games. It may be his best game of the year. Definitely his career high in points, obviously. But was it actually his most complete game? I'm sure some people would like to go back and forth on it. But this is definitely one of his best games of the year and played really well. The only negative with this game from Jaden Ivey is the fact that he had 5 turnovers. You'd like to see those turnovers cut down. But he did so many things in this game tonight that was really impressive to see. And things that he's going to have to develop on moving forward. And you started to see some of that tonight. Well, so the first thing I want to talk about is the in-between game, which is what I was talking about. Things he's going to have to improve on moving forward. Of his 14 shot attempts, I believe like 6, 7, maybe even 8 of them were from the in-between. Either a floater or a mid-range pull-up. And he made quite a few mid-range pull-ups in this game. It was definitely shocking to see. He doesn't take many of them. I don't think he should ever be taking many of them. He should just be exploding to the basket. He's just that explosive and that lethal of an athlete. So it's not that I think he should be doing it all the time or he needs to make that like a big part of his game, but it needs to be some part of his game. He needs to have that in his arsenal. And he was showing it completely tonight. He was hitting them. He was taking them comfortably. A lot of the pull-up jumpers, he had a few floater types that were a little out of pocket, a little out of hand. He was still moving a little too fast, but all of his pull-ups, all of his mid-range pull-ups in the mid-range, they looked really under control. He looked on balance and really comfortable taking them. I really like seeing that. So again, like I said, I'm not saying that has to be something that he needs to be doing all the time. Again, he's a crazy athlete. You want him at the rim all the time. But if he's able to throw the defense off every now and then by walking into a little dribble pull-up from the free throw line, he needs to take it. It's a shot that will be open for him. And the more he gets comfortable with that, the more he hits that shot, the more it opens up other things for him and his teammates when he has the ball in his hands. That right there, I think, is easily he had some other things happen in this game. He had some really good drives. He got 11 free throw attempts, which were big time. He only made 8 of them, but which is a 72%. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But the fact he got to the free throw line 11 times shows how aggressive he was and how much pressure he was putting on the basket, which was, again, just great to see. He played really well tonight. And I made a little joke in the cold open that he got to close this game out. Now, at the end of the game, the Pistons were playing Rodney Magruder, Hamidou Diallo, because the game was a blowout. But he did get to close it. And I think that he'll appreciate that some, because he was playing really well this game. If the game was close, obviously he deserved to close this one out. And the last 5 games, like we talked about in the last episode, he didn't get to close out any of those games. Dwayne Casey took him out of all those games. And again, like we mentioned in the last episode, I understood why he took him out those last 5 games, but tonight's game was absolutely a game that you want him not only closing the lineup, but he probably should have came in a lot earlier than he did in the fourth quarter. And maybe the Pistons could have stayed in this game somewhat, because he was playing really freaking well in this game. And the bench lineup, when they came into the fourth, they just lost it. At the end of the third and in the early fourth, the bench lineup got absolutely blitzed off the floor. And by the time he got some of the starters back in with 6.5 minutes to go, the game was basically already over, and it was a blowout. He ended up taking a lot of them back out 2.5 minutes later or so. So, yeah, Jaden Ivey, fantastic game. Love to see it from him. Love to see some of the him get more comfortable, I should say, in the in-between area. And absolutely love the fact that he was drawing a lot of free throws tonight. This is what they want to see from him. He plays like this, he'll close every single game moving forward. I promise you, Dwayne Casey can live with that. Again, he was giving it his all. He was playing full-on effort, and he played really well. So I want to give him that entire first segment. Played extremely, extremely well. And he hit 2 threes. That's something I probably love the most about this, is that he only took 2 threes, and both of the 3-point attempts were absolutely good looks. It wasn't the step back threes that he was forcing, the walking into long threes that he's been forcing lately. No, he knows what he's great at. He went to what he was great at, and he settled for a few mid-range pull-ups that were really under control instead of forcing up shots from beyond the arc, when anytime he takes those shots, defenses are saying in their head, we won that possession. He put a ton of pressure on the Jazz all night when he had the ball in his hands, and that's what he needs to do, because there's not many players in the league that's going to be able to stop him from putting pressure on defenses. I think the Jazz went to they were playing zone for a lot of this night, and they were trying to, kind of limit that, it looked like. But he was doing a good job too of slicing and dicing into the zone and then passing out. He had a few good corner kickouts. He would have had more than 5 assists if players could hit outside shots this game, which the Pistons as a team, I know Jaden Ivey had a really good game, but not many other players shot very well from the floor at all tonight. It was a really struggle of a game from outside for the Pistons. I'm sorry about that. I dropped my necklace. But yeah, if more guys were able to hit outside shots tonight, the game would have been closer, and a lot of guys, specifically Jaden Ivey, would have a lot more assists. But overall, fantastic game from Jaden Ivey. Love seeing that from him. Love seeing him bounce back. Hopefully he can take this game and turn it into a couple of good games in a row and string some good games together. I'm sure that does a lot of things for his confidence and for his, he hit that rookie wall, feels like, and I'm sure he feels good to finally have that good game after a tough streak recently. Yeah, I'm sure it feels good for him to be able to look at the box score and be like, yeah, I did that. I scored 30 points. I'm back. I'm pushing through it. I'm learning, et cetera, et cetera. So really good game from Jaden Ivey. When we come back, some of the other Piston players struggled a lot. What's going on? With the Pistons coming back tonight, or on Wednesday, I should say, Wednesday night with another game. Who needs to step up, and what's going on with some of the Pistons that are struggling? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with the usual user manual. And I know a lot of us wish it would. There's a ton of times in my life when I went through some things where I wish I could just be told what the right thing is to do. Where do I need to go? What do I need to put into this? What do I, you want to be told what the right direction is. So when it's not working for me, or when it's not working for you, it's normal that a lot of us feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or simply, one of the probably the most stressful things to do out there, becoming a parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine that we call you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient and accessible anywhere and 100% online. Again, as the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched over 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist at any time. It couldn't be any simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I know I said we were going to talk about some players that are struggling and what's going on, etc. But I feel like I would be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't talk about how well Jalen Duren played tonight as well. He had 15 points, 14 rebounds in this game. He shot 7 of 9 from the field. Listen, I know the last episode, we spent the entire first segment basically singing his praises. But listen, man, I'm going to keep saying it. I cannot believe how good he is already. He's the youngest player in the NBA. The youngest player. Like, he should not be this good. Usually young guys this young, at the center position especially, are not good like this out the gate. They're usually not like this. And I believe there was a stat on the broadcast, like the only other center that's done this for like 7-8 straight games was Dwight Howard his rookie year. Other rookies who have done it, I should say. There's been other like 7-year big men who have done it, but like rookies, it hasn't been done since Dwight Howard. And he for real reminds me of like a mini Dwight. Jalen Duren has been absolutely fantastic as a rookie for the Pistons, man. It's crazy how good he is. It's crazy how good he already is. And all the little raw skills that he shows, all the little flashes of stuff that he does, that dude he's fantastic, man. That's the Pistons center of the future 100%. Man, I can't wait to see what he turns into. The fact he's already able to do some of the things he's able to do now at 19 years old, who knows what he's going to be able to do at 23. 24, 25. Like, it's going to be crazy. So, listen, man, I can't sing his praises anymore, man. That dude is legit. That dude's legit. But, all right, let's move on to what went wrong in this Utah Jazz game. How did the Pistons get blown out? Who's struggling? Who do they need to get back on track? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what went wrong in this game, they let Lauri Markkanen get off. This dude had 38 points and 9 of 13 shooting from deep. There was multiple plays where they just lost Lauri Markkanen and he got wide open three. You can't let people get open. You can't let good shooters get open threes. Specifically when a dude's hitting 9 of them in a night, all the focus should be on him. And they lost him a few times. Jordan Clarkson also got off. Overall, they just had a really good night. The Utah Jazz did. They played really well tonight. Really, really well. But the Pistons, their players could have put up a better fight. And if they would have shot better or played a little bit better, it probably wouldn't have been a blowout. No matter the fact that Lauri Markkanen was close to dropping a 40-point game on the Pistons. And there's 2 players who did not play well in this game that really they needed to play well. And they need to see them bounce back tomorrow or tonight, whenever you're listening. Wednesday night, I should just say. Wednesday night against the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes. Isaiah Stewart was 0 of 5 from deep tonight against the Utah Jazz. He was 3 of 9 overall on the game. He only had 3 rebounds. He only had 7 points. Definitely one of his worst games of the year. For the majority of the season, look, Isaiah Stewart's been a really good shooter. He's been really good from outside. It was only a matter of time before he had a game where he just didn't hit any. It happens. It happens to the best shooters. Everyone has a game. Everyone doesn't make all their shots all the time. Everyone's going to have a bad game. And look, there was no way, no matter how big of a fan or stan you are of the Pistons, you knew that eventually he was going to have a bad shooting night. It was going to happen. Bojan's had bad shooting nights. He wasn't going to continue to shoot 50% from 3 for the rest of his career. It was going to happen. And this was one of them. He shot 0 of 5. Majority of them were good looks, I thought. I thought he got good looks. he just wasn't able to hit any of them. So I'm interested to see if he can bounce back against Philadelphia. If Stu hits a few more threes tonight, the Pistons are probably in this game, and you don't see the subs in at the end of the quarter. The reserves playing some minutes. You probably don't get that. But you could say the exact same thing. And also with Isaiah Stewart, real quick, 3 rebounds is just unacceptable. Not only did Walker Kessler end up with 9 for the Jazz, but Jared Vanderbilt dominated the glass for the Jazz. He had 13 rebounds himself. He was all over the place for the Jazz tonight. He had 18, 13, 6, and 2. He was pretty damn good for them. Isaiah Stewart can't let Jared Vanderbilt outplay him that bad. So that's another thing too. He needs to be more active on the glass. Can't leave a game with 3 rebounds. Just can't do that. And then also Killian Hayes shot 2 of 8 from the floor tonight, 0 of 2 from deep. He ended up the game with only 4 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Not a good game at all from Killian Hayes. And now, over the last 3 games now, he has not had a good shooting night the last 3 games. So this game, obviously, he was 2 of 8. Last game against Brooklyn, he was 4 of 13, 0 of 5 from deep. And then against Sacramento, he was 4 of 10, 1 of 5 from deep with 11 points. Before then, obviously, we had that Charlotte game when he went crazy. He had 25, 8, and 7. But since that Charlotte game on the 14th, he's had now 3 straight games when he hasn't shot the ball well. Now, look, just like with Stu, these guys they were shooting 40% from deep for a good 3 weeks, 4 weeks there. Are they actually 40% three-point shooters? Probably not. They were going to have bad shooting nights. It was going to happen. It was eventually going to come. But Killian, he needs to snap out of it and start getting back on track, because over the last 3 games, he's shooting 10% from 3 right now. He was 1 of 5 against the Kings, 0 of 5 against Brooklyn. He was 0 of 2 tonight against the Jazz. So they need him to pick it back up. They need him to pick it back up and start hitting some of these shots. He's another player with him and Jaden Ivey. They probably would have more assists if more guys hit outside shots. But Jaden Ivey would have more assists if Killian Hayes hit all of his shots. So, Killian has to start hitting more of his shots. Last 3 games, a little bit of a tough streak going on. But like I told you guys at the beginning of the season, and just like I told you guys when he started to turn the season around for himself, I told you, as long as he's continuing to play the exact same way, you will get more good games than bad, and that's going to be good for his development. Even when he has bad games, he needs to continue to play the same way, take the same type of shots, play with the same type of aggressiveness, all that assertiveness, etc. He needs to play the exact same way. I think that's what you really need to be watching for. And did he play the exact same way tonight? Do I feel like he was aggressive tonight? Was he looking for a shot? Was he confident, etc.? I do. I think he just wasn't making shots tonight. Same thing against Brooklyn, the same thing against Sacramento. He's continuing to play the same way. And, this last 2 games, he hasn't been hitting his outside shot. And that's been, weighing down his overall performance. So him and Stu both going into tonight's game, Wednesday night's game against the Philadelphia 76ers, the Pistons are going to need him and Isaiah Stewart to hit their shots, to hit their outside shots, provide more scoring than they provided tonight. They combined for 11 points. They're going to need those 2 guys, and I think they're going to show up. I think they will. I don't think Stu's going to have back-to-back terrible games like this, and I don't think Killian – if Killian was playing passive or whatever and was shying away from shots and whatever, then I'd be concerned. But no, he's just not. He's last 2 games, he's just not hitting shots. It is what it is. That happens. You play the same way, you'll get more good games. That's what we've gotten with Killian. We've got more good games than bad games since he started playing this way. So I'm not worried at all about it. I think both. I'm gonna go ahead and predict it right now. I think Killian and Stu both have a really good game against Philadelphia on Wednesday night in Philly. I think they have really good games. So not good games at all from those guys against Utah. But they'll bounce back. They'll be fine. No need to fret. No need to freak out over those guys. They'll be straight. When we come back, though, I want to talk about some of the other players. I want to give some credit to Kevin Knox, who continues to play well. And then talk about some of the other players, Bojan Bogdanovic and Saddiq Bey, who did not have very good nights. We'll continue to talk about everything we saw from this game. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to the NBA, they've got it all covered at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. And if you head over to the basketball tab over at BetOnline.net, you will see they got the odds for MVP, Sixth Man of the Year, Rookie of the Year. They got it for Coach of the Year. They got it for who do you think is going to win the championship this year? Who's going to end up with the worst record this year for the NBA? They got all the odds for all the awards, all that kind of stuff over at BetOnline.net on the basketball tab. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, so Kevin Knox continues to play really well for the Pistons. He had 9 points tonight. I believe all of them came. Actually, no, he had an and-one finish towards the end of the game. But in the first half, when the Pistons, in early in the game, like at the beginning of the second quarter, late first quarter, it looked like Utah might be starting to run away with it a little bit. Like they may just, sprint the Pistons off the court. Lauri Markkanen was just on a different tip tonight. And then Kevin Knox, yes, I'm not trolling. Kevin Knox was the one who sparked the turnaround for the Pistons and sparked them getting back into the game and keeping it close. And I think they even took a 1-point lead at some point. And that was due to Kevin Knox hitting back-to-back threes for them. He was playing really good defense. He was securing boards. He was fighting out there. He was playing really well. He even had a nice lob assist to Marvin Bagley off a nice Euro step pass. He just continues to play really well for the Pistons. One of the best feel-good stories for the Pistons this year. They have a lot of good, and that's something that, with Kate Cunningham being out, the fact that the Pistons have a few feel-good stories makes the season more fun still and cool to watch. You got Kevin Knox, who, again, before this season, people were calling him, and I can't say and act like they were wrong. He was really bad before the Pistons this year, but they were calling him the worst player in the NBA. And he's been really good for the Pistons. Amazing feel-good story. You got Killian Hayes, who, he had a bad game this past game. He hasn't shot well the last 2 or 3 games. But he's been a tremendous turnaround and feel-good story for the Pistons. Isaiah Stewart. There was people like me who doubted him and didn't think he would be able to hit threes. And, he had a bad night against the Jazz, but he's been able to hit threes. Feel-good story there. Jalen Duren's 19 years old, youngest player in the NBA. Now he's a starter, playing extremely well. Feel-good story there. And I feel like stories like that and seeing players who were, doubted play really well really makes, even with wins, losses, no matter what, it just makes it more fun to watch your team when you see guys prove guys wrong. And they have quite a few players who have done that. Kevin Knox, like I said, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren. It just makes it more fun to watch. And I'm really happy for Kevin Knox. Like, I know we've talked about him a few times on the podcast, but for real, I'm really happy for him because he's not just playing like good for his age, good for his development, good for his year in the league. Like a lot of people would probably say, like, for example, they'd probably say that about Killian. Killian's playing good for his age. He's playing good for where he was at. He was playing good for the year he's at in his league, games played, etc. No, Kevin Knox is actually playing like a rotational wing in the NBA on other teams. Like if he played like this for other teams, he'd be in their rotation too. So I'm just really happy for Kevin Knox because, again, before the year, a lot of people thought he was the worst player in the league. And he's turned it around a lot with the Pistons. He's played really good basketball. So good for Kevin Knox. Looks like that Rico Hines film was not lying before the year. He might actually be a GOAT. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but good for Kevin Knox. Good for Kevin Knox. All right, get back to some of the guys that struggle with this game. In this game, Bojan Bogdanovic, he shot 38%, 33% from deep. He had 2 turnovers. The problem with Bojan, again, this is just an off-night shooting for him. We know Bojan's going to shoot better, but you continue to see that when teams get physical with him and get up in him, it really, it really causes them to struggle. And he forces up some bad shots. He'll force up some bad turnovers. So you saw a lot of that tonight. The Jazz, I thought, did a really good job, not just on Bojan, but denying a lot of the Pistons' opening actions. Like they couldn't get into their sets because the Jazz were denying entry passes to a lot of things. So they had to resort to like just quick pick and roll. Or if they did eventually get into their sets, it was way later in the shot clock than they wanted to. I thought the Jazz were just really physical tonight and just overpowered the Pistons for the majority of the night. That's an example. And also with why Bojan struggled, I think those are the best examples to show that. you got to just credit the Jazz in that department. But yeah, Bojan probably feels like he probably should have had a better game. And then also, Saddiq Bey had no points entering the fourth quarter. He was 0-4 from the field. He did end up hitting 2 threes in the fourth quarter. He finished the game 2 of 4. But man, I don't know what's. Again, man, look, we've called Saddiq Bey. This podcast is probably going to be known as the podcast that calls Saddiq Bey the most confusing player to or the toughest player to analyze on this team, man, because it's just like I don't know like how to get Saddiq. I don't know how to get Saddiq like back into things, because again, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I'm probably repeating myself from other podcasts, but they moved Saddiq to the bench because they wanted more scoring because the bench wasn't scoring well. Well, then Alec Burks got healthy. Then Marvin Bagley was moved there. Then Kevin Knox started playing well. And now they got Alec Burks, who's an option over him on the bench. They got Marvin Bagley, who's an option apparently over him on the bench. So Saddiq now went to the bench to provide scoring and be like the main option. Now he's like the third option off the bench. And he's shot the ball better from outside recently, but still not like fantastic. And he's just, I don't know. He's just like in this no man's land right now. I feel like Saddiq is like, it's just like, I don't know. I let me know if you guys are just as confused with Saddiq lately as I am. Cause for real, I don't know if there's any other better way to explain it than I feel like he's just in like a no man's land of, you don't know what to say about him. You don't know how to talk about Saddiq. You don't know, like, really don't know anything that's really going on with this situation and how to really accurately describe what's going on with him. And how he can get out of it, like how he can get out of struggling, and how the Pistons can try to get the best out of him. Because I don't like they can't move him back to the starting lineup. They can't start him, and on the bench lineup they have other guys that they're going to over him. So I don't know. Saddiq's in a tough spot, and I don't know what to do with it. But hey, man, is what it is, I guess. But that's all I've got for you guys today, man. Let me know what you guys think about the podcast today. If you enjoyed, give me a thumbs up down below or leave us a 5-star, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Leave us a 5-star review, or not 5-star review. I already said that part. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Enjoy this game tonight. If you're listening to this on Wednesday morning, enjoy the game Wednesday night against the Philadelphia 76ers. Hopefully they have a good bounce back game. Hopefully Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes can bounce back and Jaden Ivey can continue his good play. But we'll see. We'll see against Philadelphia in Philly. And until the next podcast, stay safe, everybody. Go Pistons, and peace out.